right, welcome back to Liberty Bites on the Think Liberty Network, reporting from Clown World 2019. I'm your host, William Gadsden. You can follow me personally on Twitter at William_Gadsden, and follow Think Liberty on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever your favorite social media outlet is. Give us a follow and a like for updates on new episodes and more. So we have a lot going on right now. Producer and Tom and I just got back from YALCON Memphis, where we got some great footage, saw some amazing speakers, and saw the future of the Liberty movement. So we'll be rolling out a highlight video of that at some point here in the near future, and we have some great live stream ideas and a new show coming up. Perhaps most importantly, we finally caved and got a Patreon. The ball is in your court, Dr. Peterson. You can donate and get some sweet swag at www.patreon.com/ThinkLibertyPatrons. That's www.patreon.com/ThinkLibertyPatrons. Cool, so let's dive into the topic for today, Milkshakes and the Boogaloo. For those of you that aren't familiar, there's a new trend in the UK in which people will throw a milkshake at conservative commentators or politicians that they don't like. I say trend because it seems like everyone has picked up on this. After the first time it happened, it went viral. But not just on the internet. Leftists across the country started whipping up their milkshakes and subsequently whipped them at people they don't like. Even some fast food restaurants got in on the action, posting jokes about buying their milkshakes to throw at people that you don't like on their social media pages, followed by millions of people around the world. And by the way, I was supposed to have a milkshake in here, but it's hotter than two rabbits copulating in a wool sock, so it wouldn't have lasted long. Anyway, so a couple of things here with the milkshakes. First, I want to head off a couple of arguments before they're stated. Oh, well, it's just a milkshake. What are you crying about? Believe it or not, this argument has already been made by celebrities and the commoners alike on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Oh, it's just a milkshake. It's just a joke. It's fun. On the other hand, folks like Steven Crowder have argued that there could be anything in the milkshakes themselves. Could be something hard hidden inside, or acid, or whatever. Frankly, I think this is a pretty weak argument. First, I'm not even sure if acid could be stored in a cup designed to hold a milkshake. I'll have to get with our resident chemist to confirm that. But it's a bad argument purely because of this. By arguing that is why you shouldn't throw something at somebody, you're giving the milkshake throwers ground already. The argument should stop at, don't throw foreign objects at people. It's like we're freaking children here, learning how to treat other people. Now, you're not supposed to hit. It's pathetic. We're supposed to be grown adults. Just don't throw things at people, man. Especially if your reasoning is based on political differences. Now, not to get too far into the weeds here, but if there is one of the things that we've forgotten about as a society, it is the importance of polite discourse, especially when it comes to politics. What happened to exchanging ideas of friendly debate? That's how we are challenged, and that's how we grow as individuals, and as a consequence, as a society. But now we're to the point where it's not even discussion. Just throw something at the person you don't agree with. My main concern above all else with this milkshaking thing, though, is that the left is already trying to bring it to the US. A congressman was milkshaked a few weeks ago, and leftist Twitter went nuts. They loved it. Now mark my words, in the preceding weeks, this will be brought to the US, and the authoritarian left will be pushing hard to make it mainstream. So what's next? It's just a milkshake, what's the big deal? The big deal is that once milkshaking someone is becoming mainstream, the envelope is pushed. Next is rocks, then bricks, then Molotov cocktails, which leads me into my next topic, the Boogaloo. For those of you that are still blissfully unfamiliar with the term, the Boogaloo is internet speak for the seemingly inevitable Civil War Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Before I go any further on this topic, I want to make it absolutely clear that I in no way condone using violence against someone else based on any motivation outside of clear self-defense. I also in no way condone any sort of civil unrest or, God forbid, another civil war in America. That being said, the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of people talking about it. And not just trolls on 4chan or guys like me trying to get a few plays on YouTube. There are people from huge political think tanks in DC to retired military personnel, including general-grade officers, to mainstream politicians hinting at something like this or outright talking about it. A recent Rasmussen poll shows that a third of American voters believe that we will see a civil war in our country within the next 5 years. Of course, the internet being the internet, we make light of it. We spread the memes around, joke about our fallout shelters and stockpiling, and refer to it by silly names. I'm guilty of doing a lot of this myself. Here I am dressed up like a clown with a plate carrier on, which, by the way, this thing is just really uncomfortable. And we need to take this seriously. But here's the truth of the matter. If another civil war happens in this country, many, many people will die. And it won't be you reading about it online or marching victoriously through a street. It will be at your doorstep. And I think a lot of the joking comes from our unwillingness or inability to discuss the possibility of this in a normal way, to cope with the idea of it. When it comes down to it, I don't want to be slapping saran wrap on my best friend's sucking chest wound, or putting a tourniquet on my wife's leg, or burying my buddies in shallow graves while I try to avoid all of the horrors of man's inhumanity to their fellow man just to survive. Now, what do milkshakes have to do with all of this? Well, it isn't the milkshakes that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about what this new trend of milkshaking is indicative of. As I alluded to before, the idea of polite political discourse, or political discourse at all, is eroding if it isn't completely gone already. Just in the last 3 years, we have seen things go from heated debate to openly attacking people in the streets and throwing stuff at them. 3 years! So it's milkshakes now. Then it will be rocks. Then it will be bricks. Then somebody will set off a bomb. Then someone will retaliate against the other side with a mass shooting. And things will snowball. As each person's benchmark for reaction is met, more and more people will mindlessly dive into the struggle. As the momentum picks up, so will the violence. Before we know it, we will be engulfed in another American Civil War. And it all started with some asshole that threw a milkshake at somebody they didn't like. So how do we stop this? Even if we can, the tide will be turned by encouraging polite debate and exchange of ideas, from the level of the individual to the highest levels of government. So start with your family and friends. Do your best from letting it get heated. Be polite. Recognize and acknowledge when someone has a good idea, or you can at least see where they're coming from, even if you disagree with their point. Encourage others to do the same. We have to move away from the idea that discussing politics is taboo or impolite, and in doing so, we may be able to step away from the edge that we are rapidly approaching as a society and as a nation. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you'll come back next time to become more liberty-centered with us. I'm William Gadsden with Think Liberty.